IDT and adult learning. The leading method of instruction in Europe and in the United States is pedagogy, or the teacher-directed approach. Subsequently, in the 20th century, a new competing concept termed andragogy gained momentum. In this short presentation, I will briefly discuss the history of adult learning, the Instructional Design and Technology model, and a few personal thoughts on the integration of IDT in adult learning. Andragogy is defined as the process of engaging learners in the structure of the learning experience. Andragogy is learner-centered. It means leader of man. Pedagogy is defined as the art of science of being a teacher. The term generally refers to strategies of instruction or a style of instruction. Pedagogy is teacher-centered. It means leader of child or leader of children. Andragogy was originally used by Alexander Kapp, a German editor, in 1833. He used it in a book he wrote about Plato's educational theories to describe the lifelong need to keep learning. While he saw a place for formal education for adults, he also believed that andragogy should include learning from reflecting upon one's own life experiences and vocational training received while on the job. Eugene Rosenstock was a German writer who revived the term andragogy in 1926. He wanted to show how adult education requires special teachers, methods, and philosophies. Adult education experts John Dewey and Edward C. Lindemann continued to spread the theory of andragogy. In 1920, Edward Lindemann wrote about the andragogy with Martha Anderson. They wrote, "Andragogy is a true method of adult learning. Life itself is the adult school." In 1966, John Dewey argued that students' learning needs had to be integrated with social demand. While he supported the notion that learning required some degree of freedom, a corresponding degree of structure was equally essential. Dewey suggested that for meaningful learning to take place, the abstract world of concepts had to be connected to the real world of personal experiences. Andragogy or adult learning was developed into a theory of adult education by the American educator Malcolm Knowles. In 1970, Knowles became known as the father of andragogy and eventually identified 6 principles that defined andragogy. Knowles initially proposed 4 principles. The 5th and 6th principles were added later. Consequently, the 6 principles do not have to be present at the same time. Let's look at the 6 principles. Principle number 1, the need to know. Adult learners need to know why they need to learn something before they decide to learn it. And the need to know adults should be included in what they are learning. Principle number 2, self-concept. As a person matures, his self-concept moves from one of being a dependent child personality toward one of being a self-directed and motivated person. Learning varies between different instructional situations. Principle number 3, experience. As a person matures, the accumulation of a growing reservoir of experience becomes a resource for learning. Learning needs to be active and associated with existing knowledge and real experiences. Principle number 4, the readiness to learn. As a person develops the readiness to learn, the learner becomes increasingly focused on the developmental task of their social roles. In readiness to learn, instruction should be timely and relevant. Principle number 5, orientation to learn. As a person matures, the time perspective changes from one of postponed application of knowledge to immediacy of application. Learning shifts from subject-centeredness to problem-centeredness. Learning needs to be contextualized. And principle number 6, as a person matures, the motivation to learn is internal rather than external. Learning may be external, but for adults, motivation is internal, meaning it should be worthwhile, self-satisfying, enjoyable, and the learner should have a choice over what is learned. The ADDIE model was introduced in 1995. ADDIE is an acronym that stands for Analysis, Design, Development, Implementation, and Evaluation. The first 4 phases are linear, but the 5th is continuous and confluent with the other phases. Integrating IDT and adult learning. Disclaimer. It is possible for my thoughts on the integration of Knowles' 6 principles and ADDIE to develop a new design model for adults may already be available. As an IDT student, I have yet to explore all of the possibilities. Nevertheless, I believe through the embedding of Knowles' 6 principles in the basic IDT model of ADDIE, a unique system for motivating and integrating adult learning can be captured. Adults are primarily self-directed, but will always need the guidance and feedback from peers and instructors alike, regardless of the model used. To summarize, this presentation briefly covered the history of adult learning, the terms of andragogy and pedagogy, the ADDIE design model, and my thoughts on how instructional designers can integrate the Knowles 6 principles and the ADDIE model to create a unique design model for adults. Thank you for taking the time to watch this presentation on IDT and adult learning.